Failure isn't a dead end, it's the boundary of your capabilities. When you reach it, you haven't lost. You've simply discovered where you need to expand. That's one of the most memorable lines from Prit's book, Yoto Velocy for Multiply Your Personal Effectiveness in Quantum List. A slim book where each sentence feels like a deep cut, slicing through our human tendency for safe thinking. The book delves into individual quantum leaps, those breakthrough moments that don't come from doubling down on effort, but from completely transforming how we see ourselves and the world. It challenges seemingly untouchable beliefs, that harder work always yields better results, that success is a linear path, that fear and insecurity are to be avoided. Prit points out a truth few dare to confront. Sometimes, trying harder is the very obstacle, and it's only by stopping our attempts that the extraordinary reveals itself. This work isn't about gentle advice or comfort. It's like a jolting slap of awakening, forcing readers to re-examine how they're living, treading cautiously instead of daring to leap. Each page challenges familiar logic, compelling us to ask, am I truly moving forward or just repeating? Am I truly living or merely maintaining a comfortable existence? Perhaps what makes this book so haunting isn't its advice, but its raw, unvarnished truth. Because everyone has experienced that moment of seeing an open door but not daring to step through, simply for fear of falling. And at that very moment, Yoto whispers, falling isn't losing. Sometimes, it's the only fall that can lift you up. So, if life doesn't demand you play it safe, but only demands you truly live, what will you choose between the comfort zone and the unknown? Where does your true self reside? The small room was exceptionally quiet, nestled among pine trees outside Toronto. It was a July afternoon, and light filtered through the thin window pane like a whisper. In that silent space, a persistent sound resonated, the frantic beating of a tiny fly's wings against the glass. It poured all its remaining life force into escaping, believing that with just a little more effort, it would find freedom. But the harder it tried, the weaker its wings became. A few steps behind it, the door stood wide open, the path to escape just seconds of flight away. I sat there, listening in silence, understanding that blind effort can sometimes be our own trap. Many people are stuck just like that fly. They believe that with a little more perseverance, a little more effort, they can break through their limits. But life doesn't always operate on the logic of more is better. There are times when success isn't about trying harder, but about stopping and looking differently. I'm not writing this to talk about the fly, but about you and about a potential you've never touched. In this very moment, you can exponentially change your own effectiveness, reaching heights you never imagined, not by taking one small step after another, but by taking a quantum leap, a Yoto leap where you multiply yourself without increasing your effort. Every human being carries within them the potential to break through all limits, yet most of us choose to live within safe boundaries. We're accustomed to climbing one rung at a time, small increments, believing it's the right path. However, there are leaps that, if we dare to take them, would leave old limitations far behind in an instant. I call this a quantum leap, a jump beyond the logic of time, where results are no longer directly proportional to effort but multiply exponentially. Science calls it the phenomenon where a particle instantly shifts to another position without passing through intermediate points. And life also has such leaps. Sometimes, with just a change in perception, we can overcome years of struggling to move inch by inch. You don't need to climb every single step to reach a higher floor. You can bypass the entire staircase if you dare to believe that the ground ahead can support your step. You aren't a stronger, harder-working version of yourself, but a version that knows how to see the world differently. Instead of adding, you multiply. Instead of gradually increasing, you leap. That might sound irrational, but that very irrationality is the gateway to breakthrough. Because all limits are constructed by the mind, and only the mind can dismantle them. I've seen many people enter this phase. They reach a threshold where every additional effort only exhausts them. Then one day, they stop, let go of their old ways, and suddenly surge forward like an arrow released from a bowstring. Evolution isn't always sequential. Sometimes it explodes. But to make a leap, you must change the very rules you once believed were true. The habits, strategies, and formulas that brought you this far can sometimes be the very ropes holding you back. What once worked can become a barrier. Humans often cling to what once brought them success and then become trapped within those very limits. We believe that doing more of what worked will yield more results, but that is an illusion. More of a mistake never leads to what's right. Just like the fly, believing that hitting harder is the only way. But sometimes you don't need more strength, you just need to change direction. Changing the rules isn't easy. It throws us off balance because we have to let go of what was once our foundation. But only by accepting that can we open up our new territory. A quantum leap doesn't demand strength, it demands the courage to depart from familiar logic. Imagine this: you've been climbing a familiar ladder, rung by rung, but at a certain height, the ladder ends. Do you cling tighter or dare to jump to the adjacent wall, a place you've never set foot? In that very moment, you decide whether to keep circling the old or to cross into a new level where old limits cease to exist. And when you enter the Yoto state, everything changes dramatically. You find yourself doing less but achieving more. Opportunities seem to seek you out, things you once thought impossible now become natural. This isn't magic, but the effect of a new perception. Because when your mind shifts to a higher frequency, the world naturally aligns. Don't be surprised if those around you don't understand what you're doing. A quantum leap is often misunderstood as irrational. Shatters the logic of small steps, long preparation, and the belief that sustained effort always leads to great results. But it is precisely in that irrationality that life opens another door, where you are no longer bound by linearity but guided by intuition. Sometimes you won't know why you're doing something, you just feel that it's what needs to be done. That is the language of breakthrough. It's not explained by reason, but by the synchronicity of a different energy, the energy of awakened potential. And from there, you begin a new journey. No longer are you someone trying to climb inch by inch, but someone who knows how to multiply themselves with a different perspective. This journey doesn't begin with sweat, but with a question: what if I stopped trying so hard and chose to look again? If you're ready, take the next step. Everything you need is already within you. We often believe that success is the result of endless striving, that simply gritting our teeth and pushing harder will open doors. But some doors don't open with force, but with a different perspective. The more you try the old way, the deeper you plunge into your own maze. A turning point doesn't come from sweat or blind persistence, but from a moment of awakening. When you realize that the familiar path may no longer lead you anywhere. Think of those who once stood at the pinnacle of success and then plummeted. They didn't fall because of a lack of effort, but because they failed to realize that the world constantly changes while they clung to their old ways. Strategies that once took them high now had no effect. But instead of changing, they doubled their efforts and then collapsed precisely because of that effort. Humans easily become addicted to familiarity when they find a formula that once worked. We treat it like a talisman, believing that just doing more of what was once right will take us further. But every formula has an expiration date, and eventually, the only thing to do is throw it away. I once met a man who was intelligent, diligent, and meticulous, working twice as hard as others, yet his results remained stagnant. He didn't understand why until he stopped, looked around, and realized he was climbing a ladder leaning against the wrong wall. Effort isn't wrong, but misdirected effort is the shortest path to exhaustion. Sometimes, stopping isn't weakness, it's a form of courage. Daring to admit that the path you're on, however familiar and safe, may no longer lead to your destination, daring to turn back even after coming so far. That is the hardest thing an adult can do. Therefore, a quantum leap doesn't come from trying harder, but from thinking differently. It demands that we let go of what once provided security to create space for the new to enter. Change doesn't require strength, it requires willingness. Imagine you're trying to push a door that won't open, not knowing that it pulls. Each time you exert more force, you only make the situation more hopeless. Meanwhile, if you just change your perspective, you'll see the hinge on the other side. Sometimes, a single new perspective can change the entire game. A quantum leap doesn't invite you to do more, it invites you to do differently. It encourages you to accept the paradox that sometimes slowing down is the way to go faster, and letting go of the old is the beginning of the new. But this sounds difficult. Humans hate uncertainty, and the more successful we've been in the past, the more we fear losing it. What once helped us win becomes invisible shackles. We become imprisoned by our own capabilities. To break free, we must dare to shed our reputation, experience, and even old beliefs. Remember the image of the fly. It didn't die from weakness, but from not knowing there was another way out. And how many people out there are living the same way, tired, rushed, banging their heads against invisible limits they don't dare to question? Sometimes, what you need isn't more effort, but to turn around. So ask yourself, what would happen if you stopped trying harder and started thinking differently? If you paused your efforts to look at the bigger picture, would you discover a door already open right next to you? A quantum leap isn't a miracle. It's the result of a decisive choice, to abandon old ways of thinking and allow yourself to be irrational for a moment. Because all great things were once considered irrational until they became self-evident. And when you truly dare to break free from the framework, a strange phenomenon occurs. Your energy shifts. The world begins to respond to you differently. Those who once doubted suddenly become drawn in. Doors that were once silently closed begin to open. That's the moment you realize you don't have to break down the wall, you just need to step in a different direction. If you find yourself tired of trying, that might be a good sign, because sometimes fatigue is a signal that your soul wants to transform. Listen to it. Exhaustion isn't the end, it's a reminder. It's time to change course. Because when you stop straining yourself, you begin to see, and when you see, you can leap. That leap doesn't consume effort, it consumes belief. It demands you believe in the invisible, believe that there's a better path even if you don't see it clearly yet. That is the beginning of freedom, freedom from the very limits you once called yourself. People often think that following the safe path is the only way to survive, but that very safe path is where dreams slowly die. To create a leap, you must dare to go against the current. No breakthrough ever came from perfect compliance. Every system encourages repetition because repetition creates order. But order doesn't breed creativity. You can't paint a new picture if you only color within the old lines. Disregarding familiar paths is the first thing you must learn. It might scare you. Humans always fear difference, fear the unknown. But look back, every great achievement began with an act that seemed crazy. The first person to sail beyond the shore was called a fool. The first to fly was considered delusional. But they were the ones who changed the world's map. Irrationality is sometimes another form of wisdom. You must be brave enough to be foolish for a while if you want to be wise forever. A quantum leap demands temporary disobedience to the rules of common sense, because common sense only yields common results. Imagine you're running on a worn path trodden by thousands. Every step seems secure. But precisely because of that, there's nothing new. If you want to go somewhere else, you must turn onto a path no one has taken. The new path always begins dusty and obscure, but it is in that obscurity that you find your own map. Sometimes, what's right is no longer found in what's logical. You might have to reverse your logic. If you're pushing hard and nothing moves, stop and pull gently. If you're trying to get over a wall, perhaps you just need to open a door. Don't underestimate simplicity. Simplicity is the highest form of sophistication. I once met a woman who had worked in the same field for 20 years. She was skilled and respected, but she had lost interest. Each of her days was a replica of the last. Then one day, she gave it all up and started learning pottery. People called her crazy, but that was precisely when her life began to flourish again. Sometimes, just turning sideways brings you back to the right path. Don't be afraid when you feel you no longer fit the old way. That's not losing direction, but a sign of evolution. Humans are not trees to cling to one spot forever. We are born to move, to try, to fail, to find different paths. And the important thing is not to try to rationalize everything. Rationality is a tight shirt that chokes potential. If you always wait until everything is perfectly rational, you will never act. Allow yourself to try things not in your plan. Many great inventions didn't come from intention, but from error. A quantum leap isn't blind madness, it's directed recklessness. You know exactly what you want, but aren't fixed on how to get there. You're flexible, adaptable, ready to change direction if a new path opens up. And above all, you must let go of the belief in certainty. No journey is both safe and groundbreaking. When you venture into the unknown, you'll find the world begins to speak to you in a different language. The language of coincidence, of unexpected opportunities, of seemingly meaningless connections. Everything starts to align as if it's conspiring to help you. This is the law of the quantum leap. When you truly dare to leave the familiar zone, the universe also breaks its silence. It responds with subtle signals: a person you accidentally meet, an idea that flashes in your sleep, an opportunity that seems coincidental. These are the invisible hands pulling you to a higher level. Remember, what is called irrational today will become obvious tomorrow. Every logical thing was once considered insane. If you only do what's logical, you will remain forever in the logical zone, where nothing new ever happens. So if someone tells you what you're doing is crazy, smile. That's a sign you're in the right place, because craziness and breakthrough are always two sides of the same coin. Don't forget that a quantum leap doesn't demand you have the answers. It only requires you to ask a big enough question, a question that opens up space, whereas an answer merely closes it. When you dare to ask, "What if I did things differently?" you've opened up another world. And that world begins in this very moment. The moment you stop, breathe, and realize you don't need to try harder, don't need to be more correct, you just need to dare to be different. Every breakthrough begins with a small but bold step, stepping off the old path. That's when you are no longer your old self. You've begun to multiply yourself. You're living in the rhythm of Yoto, where all limits dissolve with every breath. We often live within the box of what's rational. Whenever we want to do something new, our mind immediately erects barriers. Is that even possible? Has anyone done it before? What if I fail? But it's these very questions that strip away our primal creative energy. A quantum leap doesn't happen in the realm of the rational, but where the irrational begins. Imagine a young bird flying from its nest for the first time. It doesn't calculate wing angles or analyze wind speed, it just spreads its wings. Its power lies in the decision to try, not in its understanding. Humans are the same. We become so accustomed to the ground that we forget the sky has no barriers. Thinking beyond the limits of common sense isn't fanciful thinking. It's daring to admit that what's possible is sometimes just the laziness of conventional imagination. We only dare to want an extra 10%, 20% enough to be safe, but not enough to break through. But a quantum leap isn't measured in percentages, it's measured in multiplication. When you truly allow yourself to dream big, you'll find that previous barriers were merely illusions. Start by letting desire lead, not fear. Don't ask, "Can I?" Ask, "What do I truly want?" Because when a goal stems from pure desire, it unleashes a colossal energy that reason cannot comprehend. We don't need to know every step, we just need to know the destination. Focus on possibility, not probability. Humans often live within their low probability self. We think as if the world is a closed room when it's an open field. All limits are actually chalk lines the mind draws itself. If you're willing to erase them, your vision will expand to a degree that will surprise even you. But there will be times you hesitate, when the familiar voice of doubt will echo. Are you sure? What if you fail? That's when you need to temporarily suspend all doubt and act as if success is guaranteed. Doubt isn't proof of intelligence, it's merely a remnant of fear colored by reason. Try living as someone who is certain they will succeed. Walk with the natural confidence of someone who already holds the results in their hand. You'll be surprised to see how differently the world responds. All doors begin to open, not because they suddenly become easier, but because you've changed your own frequency. Remember, belief doesn't need proof. Proof will come after action. If you keep waiting for enough signs to believe, you will never begin. It's when you act unconditionally that life delivers the evidence. This may sound paradoxical, but all breakthroughs are born from paradox. Many have asked me, how can I believe when I see nothing? The answer is simple: pretend to believe. Act as if the belief is already there. Do what a confident person would do. Gradually, action creates momentum. Momentum becomes true belief. The mind learns from the body, and the body learns from determination. If you must doubt, doubt your own limits, because that is the real enemy. We grow up with stories that make us believe we have limits, but those limits aren't in your blood or your genes, they're in your memories. You've believed old narratives for so long that you thought they were truth. It's time to revive the belief you once had as a child, the belief that anything is possible. The important thing isn't that you're certain of success, but that you stop feeding failure with doubt. Doubt drains the energy for action, while belief, even if blind for a moment, ignites an immeasurable motivation. Let imagination lead, and let action prove. When you step beyond the boundaries of common sense, you are no longer your old self. You begin to dialogue with a larger world, a world that responds to belief instead of fear. And there, you'll realize that what once seemed irrational is precisely the most rational thing for your growth. Because every limit you overcome is living proof that you are always greater than your own fear. That is the true beginning of the leap, where the mind stops seeking safety and starts seeking possibility. Then, you no longer need miracles, because you have become that miracle. There's a truth few dare to accept. Most of our lives, we're obsessed with how rather than the destination. We try to figure out which path to take, how to prepare, what conditions are necessary, while we haven't even clearly defined where we truly want to go. It's this obsession with the means that makes us lose sight of the goal. The important thing isn't knowing what you'll travel by, but knowing where you're going. You don't need to know every precise step. Focus on the outcome, not the means. The image in your mind must be clear as if it has already happened. All other details, the people you meet, the opportunities, the coincidences, will gradually arrange themselves. The path only reveals itself to those who are walking. If you wait for the path to appear before you step, you will stand still forever. Imagine yourself swimming in a fog. You can't see the entire lake, but by maintaining your direction and stroke, you'll still reach the shore. The initial obscurity is necessary because it forces you to trust. If everything were too clear, it wouldn't be a leap, but just the old way of walking. A quantum leap isn't a series of calculations, it's a decisive choice. You choose the outcome and then trust that the world will adjust to that choice. Don't get caught up in details that haven't happened yet. They don't need to be solved now. Hold the vision long enough, the belief strong enough, and action will find its own way. When you start to see the world that way, you'll realize there are unseen but incredibly powerful forces at work around you. These invisible forces aren't magic, but the natural mechanisms of life: intuition, premonition, coincidence, or what we call luck. They are all ways the universe communicates with those who are truly living according to their purpose. Imagine you light up a clear image in your mind of what you want to achieve. That image acts like a signal broadcast into space, calling forth countless elements you never expected, people you haven't met, ideas you haven't conceived, opportunities you haven't seen. Everything begins to move towards you. They don't arrive randomly, but in response to the energy of your intention. This isn't superstition, it's simply the logic of focus. Where there is attention, there is energy. Where there is energy, there is formation. All human creation, from art to science, begins with an image in someone's mind. The physical world is merely the result of an imagined world sustained long enough. Try letting your mind act as a guiding mirror. Hold the image of success within it and allow all surrounding vibrations to adjust themselves. You'll begin to notice strange coincidences, a meeting that leads to a big breakthrough, an idea appearing at just the right moment, a door opening after you've just decided not to give up. These are the signs of invisible forces at work. The only thing you need to do is trust and keep that mirror clear. Doubt blurs it. Fear shatters it. Allow yourself to live as someone who is certain that the world is collaborating with you, not against you. Don't try to understand how everything works. You don't need to understand the mechanism of electricity to light up a room. You just need to trust that when you flip the switch, light will come. Many people limit themselves because they only believe what they see. They forget that the absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. Just like an iceberg, the part you see is only a small piece. The most enormous part always lies hidden beneath the surface. Life is the same. The most important elements of your journey cannot be measured or grasped, but they are real and waiting for you to open the door for them. Learn to rely on what you haven't seen. When you act with that belief, you no longer feel alone. Every step is supported by hundreds of invisible threads connecting you to the world. What you need will appear at the right time, neither too early nor too late. And looking back, you'll realize that everything you once thought was accidental was perfectly orchestrated. That is the art of the quantum leap. Not more effort, but cooperation with the flow of forces you cannot see. You no longer act to force results, but allow results to form through you. Your actions become lighter, but their impact is greater. Imagine that feeling, not racing against life, but flowing with it. As if everything is in agreement with you, you no longer have to struggle, just flow along. Then work becomes joy, challenges become invitations, and the world is no longer an adversary but a partner. And it is when you live in that state that miracles begin to happen. Everyone fears risk, but few realize that safety is also a risk, differing only in that it kills us more slowly. When you choose to remain in the familiar zone, you think you're avoiding danger, but in reality, you're denying yourself opportunity. The world doesn't punish those who fail, it only punishes those who don't dare to try. Choosing to embrace risk means learning to re-examine your entire fear structure. What is truly more frightening? Taking a step and potentially falling, or standing still and watching the years pass by? If you're honest with yourself, you'll see that the greatest risk is losing the ability to become who you could be. A quantum leap always makes your heart beat faster because it pulls you out of your comfort zone. Risk is the heartbeat of life. Without it, life becomes stagnant like still water. Think about the times you truly changed. None of them happened comfortably. Fear always accompanies progress. If you feel shaky, it's a sign that you're at the threshold of growth. Stop trying to balance everything. Balance is a state of stagnation. Growth requires leaning, swaying, imbalance. When you choose new risks, you are inviting new possibilities to enter. Life cannot be poured into a full cup. Only when you dare to pour some out does empty space appear to welcome something greater. However, risk is not recklessness, it's directed courage. You don't jump into an abyss just to prove you're brave. You jump because you know there's something worth living for on the other side. The risk in a quantum leap is the kind of risk that makes your soul grow larger. It doesn't destroy you, it regenerates you. Remember, when you act with clear intention, the world doesn't stand by. Your every move creates a corresponding reaction in the space around you. This isn't mysticism, it's the law of resonance. Your goal emits a frequency, and corresponding possibilities will respond. Therefore, what you truly need to believe in isn't the outcome, but the power of pursuit. Desire is merely a spark. Pursuit is the flame. When you dedicate your entire mind, time, and energy in one direction, the world begins to restructure itself around you. The people you need to meet will appear, the tools you need will find their way to you, and initial obstacles will transform into stepping stones. Daily repeated action is a form of faith. It tells life that you are truly serious. And when life believes in that seriousness, it begins to open the way. Many people stop too early, right before the threshold of breakthrough, because they judge results by what they see, forgetting that energy has been accumulating in silence. Keep going even if you see nothing yet. Every step is recorded. Observe a river. It doesn't rush, it doesn't force, but with persistent determination, it can erode entire rocks. The power of pursuit lies in unassuming persistence. You don't need to be loud to create a big effect. Just maintain your rhythm steadily, loyal to your direction. And then one day, you'll realize you've surpassed your starting point so much that you no longer remember what the initial fear was. Your inner world changes. You no longer chase results, but let results find you. You understand that consistent action is the only way to turn the invisible into the visible. Don't demand proof until you've completed the journey. All proof only appears at the end. Those who stop halfway will always say it didn't work because they didn't go far enough to see the transformation. But those who know how to pursue will see that a quantum leap doesn't come from a single magical moment, but from thousands of seemingly ordinary steps taken with unwavering belief. By then, you no longer ask if you'll succeed, because you have become the very path to success. Risk, effort, belief, and action merge into one. You no longer separate yourself from the world but become its flow. You begin to understand that everything in life, even undesirable things, is working together to help you go further. Risk turns into opportunity, failure turns into data, and pursuit becomes instinct. At that point, you no longer need to seek the quantum leap. You are the leap itself. Sometimes, the clearest sign of progress is failure itself. People often view failure as a wound, something bad to be avoided. But in truth, it's a map of possibility. Each stumble pushes us to a new boundary of our capacity, showing us where we're still lacking, where potential remains confined. Failure isn't an end, it's a resource. It gives us real data, not theory. It points to the edge of our limits so we know how far we can expand. Look at how a spacecraft flies to the moon. 90% of its journey deviates from its trajectory, constantly making errors and self-correcting. It fails most of the time, but it's precisely because of those errors that it reaches its destination. Humans also achieve success by failing in the right direction. If you're always right, it means you're repeating what you already know. If you're wrong, it means you're learning something new. Sometimes progress comes in the form of trouble. You think you're getting bogged down, but in reality, you're just shedding your skin. Progress often disguises itself as trouble because the process of change is never neat. You'll be tested, criticized, perhaps abandoned. There will be times you doubt yourself, wanting to return to safety. But safety is the sweetest trap. It lulls you into sleeping in the old, then you call it stability. Remember, failure is evidence of progress. It's a sign that you're moving, just like muscle soreness after a workout. Fatigue is a manifestation of growth. Don't be quick to call difficulties enemies. See them as building materials for your character. It's only through friction that we truly shine. And then, when you've ventured far enough, a strange phenomenon will occur, a sense of losing control. You're like someone hurtling down an unfamiliar road. All concepts of certainty vanish. That is the state of a quantum leap, both exhilarating and terrifying. It pulls you out of your comfort zone, forcing you to let go of old controls to learn to trust new momentum. Accept discomfort as part of the process. If you feel no unease, perhaps you haven't gone far enough. Comfort is a signal that you're playing it safe, not growing, not challenging yourself. The feeling of restlessness, trembling, or ambiguity is the natural temperature of change. Don't try to extinguish it. Let it burn away the fear within you. You will not be able to control everything, and you don't need to. There are only 3 things you truly hold: knowing clearly where you want to go, continuing to pursue it, and learning from your mistakes. Just those 3 things are enough to guide the entire journey. Don't worry that you're lost. Getting lost is sometimes the path itself. You might feel awkward when old habits no longer work. Let them go. Don't cling to the safety chain that once helped you because it's now holding you back. Instead of clinging, let go. Liberation doesn't come from better control, but from daring to loosen your grip and move forward. The world will test your resolve with countless unknowns. You'll find yourself in unexpected situations, on paths that old maps cannot explain. That is when you must learn to navigate by feeling, by intuition, by faith in the direction you've chosen. When you stop trying to control, you begin to control on a deeper level, the level of trust. Let fear accompany you instead of resisting it. Courage isn't the absence of fear, but continuing despite fear. When you do what you fear, the fear dies. That is a natural law. Only by going through it can you escape it. Don't expect this path to be smooth. It will be tumultuous, chaotic, and may even make you feel disoriented. But in that vortex, something is being restructured, yourself. You are no longer the old you. You are being reforged by the heat of effort and belief. Embrace every mistake as a signal that you are alive. Because only those who dare to step know what falling means. Those who stand still never fall and never move forward. Failure, insecurity, ambiguity, all are merely the language of expansion. And when you begin to understand this language, you will no longer fear it. You will see that behind every crack is a door. Every person is born with unopened gifts within them. These aren't distant things, but quiet abilities sleeping inside you. The capacity to see what others overlook, to be patient when others are hasty, or to dare to believe what no one else believes. The problem is, most of us never unwrap those gifts. We live busy enough to forget that within us still lies an untouched treasure. Opening the gift of your own potential doesn't require anything new. It only requires daring to look back. True ability isn't found in flashy skills, but in the clarity of self-confrontation. Perhaps you once underestimated an ability, thinking it was just a small thing. But sometimes that very small thing is the gateway to great talent. Many seek magic outside themselves, while magic awaits recognition right within them. Every time you start to try something you've never done before, you're opening another gift. Talent only grows when it's used, not when it's admired. Treat your abilities like seeds. They only sprout when they touch the earth, not when they're kept in a glass box. Don't wait until everything is perfect to begin, because perfection comes only after you act, not before. And to act persistently, you need a stronger force than reason: passion. Passion isn't just an impulsive emotion. It's the current that feeds every quantum leap. To let passion lead, you must dare to love what you do so much that you're willing to endure its difficulties. Anyone who is only superficially interested will give up at the first challenge, but who truly loves, that person patiently overcomes storms. Passion doesn't guarantee that everything will be smooth, but it guarantees you won't give up. It makes you wake up earlier, work longer, think deeper, not out of obligation, but because you cannot not do it. People can only achieve breakthrough when they love what they pursue enough to forget their fear. Remember, only goals that make your heart vibrate can pull in exponential effectiveness. You cannot create a quantum leap from cold desires. If you choose a goal purely for rational reasons, you will quickly run out of energy. But if you choose something that fascinates you, the world will feel it and respond. Sometimes others won't understand why you persist with something seemingly meaningless. They'll advise you to be realistic, to be safe. But someone else's reality is not your destiny. Let your heart be your compass because it knows what truly makes you live. Don't live by someone else's map. That map will only lead you where they have been, not where you need to go. Passion has a strange characteristic: it's contagious. When you live with fire in your heart, those around you will feel it, and they, too, will begin to glow. Therefore, pursuing passion isn't a selfish act, it's how you contribute to raising the world's frequency. A person truly alive will always spread life. But passion cannot exist if you only stand by and watch. You must step in, allow it to exhaust you, hurt you, even make you doubt. Because only after those bumps and bruises does passion mature into a profound love, one no longer dependent on fleeting interest, but based on a deep attachment to the path you've chosen. Let passion be your fuel, not the destination. It is the inner fire, not the light at the end of the road. That fire will illuminate every step you take. And even if it's dark outside, you'll still be bright enough to keep going. Everyone has a special energy, a unique kind of light. When you unwrap your gift of potential and let passion ignite it, you begin to send your own signal out into the world, and the world will somehow respond with suitable opportunities, kindred spirits, unexpected turns, all will gradually appear. That's not magic, but the natural resonance of the universe. When you live true to your purest self, you and life begin to speak the same language, and in that language, there is no word for impossible. Everyone thinks they have to be ready before they start, but the truth is, no one is ever truly ready. Readiness is an illusion born of fear. If you wait for perfect circumstances, the right time, or sufficient skills, you will wait your entire life. Act before you're ready, because it's only when you take the step that you become ready. You can't learn to swim by standing on the shore. You can read hundreds of books, watch thousands of videos, but only by jumping into the water will you truly understand what water is. Life is the same. All preparation is just a draft. The final version is written when you start moving. Let action precede certainty. Don't wait until all fear is gone before you act, because fear only dissipates when you're in motion. Movement generates strategy, not the other way around. Many people waste time creating perfect plans, mapping out routes, and predicting risks. But the world never adheres to those plans. The path only reveals itself when you walk. If you don't walk, it will remain an empty space. Think of yourself as a trailblazer in the night. You only need enough light for the first few meters, you don't need to see the entire trail. As you take a few more steps, the light extends a few more steps. Action is what pulls vision forward, not the reverse. You will never have enough data to see everything, because part of the map is only drawn as you venture forth. And the surprising thing is, when you act even when you're not ready, you start to find yourself stronger than you imagined. You know more than you think you know. There's a hidden reservoir of knowledge within you, waiting to be activated by real challenge. Just as the body only releases adrenaline when faced with danger, the mind only truly opens when thrown into the unknown. You don't need to wait for confidence to act to gain confidence. Confidence isn't born first, it's forged in the process. Don't be afraid to make mistakes, because every mistake is merely a coordinate for the next adjustment. Just as a pilot navigates by hundreds of small corrections, you too are flying by continuously correcting your course. And once you've taken the leap, something extraordinary happens. You begin to feel the rhythm of life differently. Opportunities you once didn't see suddenly appear, not because they are new, but because you've changed your perspective. When the inside moves, the outside world also moves with it. That is the deepest connection between human beings and reality. All true opportunities lie within you. They don't come from favorable circumstances or from others, but from your ability to realize what you can do with what you have. It's not the world holding you back, but the way you see the world. When you change your perception, new doors open from within. Stop searching outside for everything you need. The timing, the energy, the ability, they are all already within you. The key to a quantum leap lies in an internal decision. Once you decide, the universe adjusts to that decision. The world doesn't need you to be perfect. It only needs you to be willing. Sometimes what you call the wrong time is actually the best time, when you're not yet ready. You are still flexible, still curious, still vibrant. When you're too prepared, you become rigid, heavy, losing the subtlety of intuition. Use your unreadiness as an advantage. It makes you more sensitive to every signal around you, and on that journey, listen to your inner voice. That is the only compass that never lies. The outside world will be noisy. People will tell you to do this, not that. To wait longer, to be more cautious. But only you know what makes your heart beat fast. Trust that heartbeat, for it is the frequency of your soul leading you in the right direction. Don't look for opportunities in brightly lit places, because the light there already belongs to others. True opportunities lie in the dark corners of yourself, places you haven't dared to look. Every time you dare to face your fear, dare to step into the unknown, you open another inner door. These are the doors that lead to a stronger, deeper version of yourself. And when you begin to live that way, you no longer need to wait for miracles. You are the miracle. All limits dissolve when you stop preparing for life and start living it. Remember, there is no perfect time. There is only this moment, and this moment is enough. Every great journey begins with a very small moment, the moment you stop asking what's rational and start asking what truly makes you live. This book doesn't teach us how to succeed, but how to break free from the limits of the very concept of success. It's not about climbing a higher rung, but about leaping off the old ladder to step into an entirely different level of consciousness. The most important lesson is that you don't need to do more. You just need to do differently. The world doesn't demand you become someone else. It only asks you to re-examine how you're thinking, choosing, and living. Sometimes, just a small shift in perspective can open up a whole new horizon. True change doesn't happen out there, but in how you process each moment, in your decision to stop, breathe, and choose to see everything with different eyes. The book reminds us that failure, insecurity, and risk are not enemies. They are mirrors reflecting the unopened parts of you. When you stop fighting them, you begin to learn the language of evolution. A quantum leap doesn't happen in places of certainty and calm. It only appears when you dare to step into the ambiguous zone where everything could fall apart. And it is from there that the extraordinary is born. Think about it. Do the turning points in your life always appear when you're not ready? Do the greatest things you've ever done all begin with a reckless decision, a sudden moment of daring to say, I will try? Perhaps these very moments are the essence of Yoto, where ordinary people suddenly become different, not because they learned something new, but because they dared to believe they were already enough. What makes the leap truly beautiful isn't the outcome, but the state when you are falling without fear. At that point, you no longer try to hold on, nor do you try to control. You simply exist fully within the boundless atmosphere, realizing that life has never been against you. It's just waiting for you to surrender into it. So if there's one action you can take right now, perhaps it's to stop preparing and start moving. Don't need to know all the answers, don't need to feel certain. Do what you know is right, even if it's just the first step. All great things begin in ambiguity. And perhaps the ultimate question for you, reading these lines, is how much energy are you spending fighting the very change you're yearning for? Do you dare, just once, to believe that if you just take a step, the path will open itself? And if not now, then when? Life doesn't wait for anyone to be ready. It only waits for those brave enough to jump.